We're here in Monte Carlo for the Rendezvous de Septembre. For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks. And I'm joined now by David Priebe, who's chairman of Guy Carpenter. David, welcome.
Richard, great to be here.
So, David, a lot of talk about the market cycle, the reinsurance market cycle. How well has the market managed the hard market so far, and how do reinsurance brokers add value?
Well, I think depending on who you talk to, so I think reinsurers think they've managed the market quite well, because if I look at their current results throughout this year, we're projecting they'll have 18.3% return on equity, which it was desperately needed given the experience over the last 6 years. 4 out of 6 years they were losing money. So profitability needed to return. But the structural changes and the pricing changes have left a fairly profound impact on a number of our primary clients who are continuing to suffer some continued losses. And so the work that needs to be done is how can we continue to help our clients manage that increased loss activity within their retentions, and support them in terms of their drive to achieve profitability. But you asked about how brokers add value in this market. Quite frankly, this is when we thrive. This is our market, and the key thing is how can we help access the most cost-efficient capital, and how can we work with clients to structure their programs to achieve that, and then give them the tools to access profitable business going forward. So, the advisory piece and the transactional piece are critical.
I guess that leads into the next question, which is about risk appetite. Lots of talk about risk appetite here in Monte Carlo. What are the drivers of reinsurance risk appetite?
Well, right now it's really around where do I think I can get a profitable return on the capital that I'm willing to deploy. So that was sort of the critical piece leading into 2023, 1/1, because we needed to get the prices to a level that people were willing to deploy their capital. We sort of hit that mark. And when the pricing came to that level, the capital started coming in to support that. And that's the key thing, is how can we build and help identify where are the pieces of profit opportunity, and how does that match up, matching the right capital with the right risk, and then helping people access that risk.
So you talk a lot about clients. I guess when you're talking about your clients, you're talking about insurers. How are they responding to the changing dynamics?
Well, I have been talking about insurers, and they've now had 12 months to sort of absorb and manage the structural changes that took place at 1/1, and work with their counterparties to sort of set a path forward. So they're doing really two things. One, they're understanding within the increased nets that they're retaining, what is the portfolio shape that they have to affect to achieve lower volatility and profitability within their net retained business. Are there things that they need to do both on the underlying level in terms of pricing, in terms of limit deployment, in terms of geographic construct, and work with that? And secondly, we got to look at, are there different ways that we can structure their ongoing reinsurance program to sort of manage that increased volatility that they were forced to take at the early part of 2023.
So one of the topics that seems to be high on the agenda this year is the kind of the blurring of the boundaries between insurers and reinsurers, as we see reinsurers perhaps expanding their traditional lines of business away from pure reinsurance into primary business. What's the response of your clients to reinsurers doing that?
It's a mixed response. Needless to say, they're saying, "Are you my partner? Are you going to help me grow my own business, or are you my competitor?" Most of the expansion that reinsurers have moved into is in the specialty lines, where there's probably not as much pure conflict, but that's an important element. And so there are some reinsurers that have chosen to be more purist and say, "No, I'm there to support you, Mr. Primary Insurance Company." And there's others that have sort of are playing both sides of the street, and that's sort of a delicate walk, and some people are doing it better than others.
So there's a criticism that's often leveled at the insurance industry generally, that it's always trying to address the last disaster. How does Guy Carpenter help the industry get on the front foot?
Well, we're constantly trying to look at what could happen, what may happen. If you sort of take a look at the the global risk report that the World Economic Forum in partnership with Marsh McLennan puts out. And that sort of maps out where do we see all the risks, both current and projected into the future. And then really looking at those risks and say, how does that then translate into the world of insurance? Or how it could have an impact on insurance. And those are sort of the scenarios we're talking through with our clients about the what if, the geopolitical concerns, systemic concerns, systemic cyber risk, and then working with them to sort of build a strategy and a plan to build resilience into their business to address these emerging risks. That's the one thing that the reinsurance community, we're taking the tail of the risk curve for the world. And so we're used to handling these mega events. Now, things crop up beyond expectation, like the pandemic. That wasn't a risk that people didn't understand. They probably just didn't expect the magnitude of that. And we need to do better at that and prepare for that and work with governments and private capital to build partnerships to manage what is, quite frankly, an increasing risky world that we're living in.
David, thank you very much indeed.
Richard, thank you.
For Invest TV, I'm Richard Banks.